Hi, this is my Ursarctic deck profile. I've been playing Ursas for the last few weeks at my locals. I've gone 3-1, 2-2, and 3-1. It's a really good locals fun casual deck. It's relatively cheap for the most part, easy to access because almost every card is in the one set, and you'll get most of it from just buying a box of that set. But even then, you're not really getting your money back. You buy these as singles and you'll save yourself a fortune. So yeah, it's just a fun, cheap deck, and it's alright for a locals thing. Don't take it to a regional or anything like that, anything major, but if you just want to have some fun at locals, it's pretty good. Alright, we're going to start off with the deck profile, and just go through a lot of decisions that I feel like are pretty good for this deck, because not everything seems too straightforward, apparently. 2 Ash Blossom. I know I just said it's a cheap deck and then started with a $30 common. If you don't have Ash Blossoms by now, that's fine. Just use Veilers. I just think that this thing being a level 3 tuner, as well as being one of the best hand traps in the game, is just absolutely worth playing. There's just so many situations where you want an Ash Blossom just to negate something, and then worst case scenario, you can normal summon it and go into a Chinging quite easily in this deck. Next we have Deep Sea Diva. This is our initiator, our starting card. It is a level 2 tuner, which is a little annoying sometimes, but that's fine for what you're wanting it for. It summons a Neptivus out of deck. If you've already lost the Neptivus, Diva into another Diva is not terrible, as long as you've got the Ursas to go with it, because you can go into your level 9 synchros quite easy with that. You can get 2 level 9 synchros just by playing 2 Divas, or you can go into Hulk and get a 3rd Diva, I don't know, or an Ash. So that's fine, I guess. Generally, you want this. Drawing this on its own sucks. You can still use it. You're still getting half your combo, but the main reason is that these two are a level apart, the level 1 and the level 2, which gives you a free Polari. So this is a normal summon for the Neptivus line, all the Atlantean stuff, which is huge. And then you also end on a Polari. So with Neptivus, what you want to do is you send Dragoons. Dragoons will add Poseidra. Oh, no, sorry, you send Dragoons to add Poseidra. So this adds Poseidra. Dragoons adds Mollin Glacier. And then you make this, and you've already got 2 waters in grave with a bunch of stuff in hand. These can either be discard fodder, which is really good for these two, to be discard fodder, or you can use them. You can use the Mollin Glacier itself when you hit 5 waters, which is so easy to do as long as you have Diva and a bear, or Diva and 2 bears. It's really easy to get Mollin Glacier on the field first turn. So this whole line is here. It's all very good. I run a double of the Dragoons, because that way if you draw this, you can still do the combo partially. You'd still Neptivus sending Dragoons to add Dragoons, and then the Dragoons adds this, and you've just got a Dragoons in your hand instead of the Poseidra, which you've already got in your hand anyway. This is worthless in hand, but when there's 2 of this, or when there's only 1 Dragoons, if you draw the Dragoons, the whole combo dies. You lose all of it. So that's why I run 2 Dragoons, because it is the combo piece you must have a spare. If you draw 2, scoop, it's fine. Dragoons can be triggered in this deck, as can Neptivus. They've both got a grave effect. They can be triggered by Polari and Crocodragon, so yeah, that's pretty good. They're not completely useless. It doesn't bother you too much if they're in your hand. 2 Water Barrier Statue. If you don't draw the Divas, just summon this and then do all your plays. All your stuff is water special summons, or 99% of it is water special summons. This is a good alternate to Diva, but you would prefer Diva if you can. If you can get away with the Diva line, then do it. But this doesn't lose to an Ash, so this is also very strong, and can just steal games against a lot of decks that can't out a Barrier Statue. Onto the bears themselves, the Ursas. 3 Mick Polar. This card is crazy good. It's a level 7, you tribute a level 7 or higher in hand, which is why this deck does have a lot of high levels, so Poseidra is really nice for that. You tribute level 7 or higher in hand to summon it. When it's summoned, you search for another Ursa. So this sets you up with pretty much everything you need. And is easily the best Ursa. It is the starting Ursa, just because you want to summon this first so that you can search your next one. Because you're discarding to summon this, it needs to replace what you've discarded, which is very good for this. Mictanus is kind of the same as Mythpolar, but it grabs from grave instead of from deck, so we only run 2 of that. 9 times out of 10, you're just going to be getting back the very card you discarded, which is fine. Like, you discard an Ursa, you play this, and then you add Ursa back to hand. It's not great, but it puts a guy on the board. These guys have terrible stats. They've all got 700 attack and then like 2,000 and 1,700 defense. They're terrible on the field, but you're using them to go into synchros and stuff, and just to get your counters up or down. So Ursas do use a lot of counters, and level 7 non-tuners are not bad for, you know, you put down an Ash and that's Chenging, or you play it with Diva and that's Crocodile Dragon. Now we're on to the 8s. There's 3 big bears. These are all level 8 tuners, which is awkward as hell for building an extra deck around. So level 8 tuners. Now, the other bad thing about Ursas is if you summon them by discarding a card or tributing a card from hand, you can't access Xyz or links for the rest of the turn. So yeah, that's fun. That's why it's a synchro-based deck, I guess. These are summoned the same way as the little ones. You just tribute a level 7 or higher from hand to summon them. This one, they all have an effect if you control another Ursa when they're summoned. If you don't control another Ursa when they're summoned, they don't do anything. They're vanillas. This one is a Book of Moon, so you summon it. The thing is, they don't use their effect immediately either. It is the next chain, so you can't do this as interruption. You can only summon these proactively to get rid of stuff. So this one's a Book of Moon, really good for stopping link plays or any extra deck plays. You're just putting something face down, or if there's something like a protected Eldritch on the field, it puts him face down. It's no longer got its destruction protection. So it has its utilities there. This one's an MST. When it's summoned, destroy a spell or trap on the field. Really good for everything except for Rivalry of Warlords and Skill Drain. Both of them stop this because all the other Ursas are Beast mostly. Well, the little Ursas are Beast, the big one's a Beast Warrior. But if you've got a Beast one on field, you can't really use this to get rid of the Rivalry, and it just never gets through Skill Drain. So it's a bit sad like that, but sometimes backer removal is nice, and sometimes you need it for your own stuff. And then this one, this is your best card. This card's nuts. When it's summoned, if you control another Ursa, it is a banish. So it's a DD Crow. So you got Book of Moon, MST, DD Crow. And it's also 2800 on the body. So it gets over most things that are a problem. And being able to remove Eldritch traps, it's just card. It doesn't have to be a monster. So being able to get rid of Golden Ward or an Eldritch trap is just really strong in that matchup. And almost every matchup has grave stuff that you want to banish that isn't quick effect. You obviously don't want to target something with a quick effect, they'll chain it. But if it doesn't have a quick effect, this is a really good removal for it. Or if they just have any recursion whatsoever. So these are just a bit of a toolkit, but also they are your tuners, your level 8 tuners. And again, with a level 7, so any of these guys, they can make Polari, because Polari is made really weird. It just has to be a tuner and non-tuner that are 1 level apart. So bizarre. The reason you're playing more of these is because Polari plus 1 of these makes you level 7 guys. These are also made by something that's 7 levels apart, but the tuner has to be a level 8 or higher. It's a really weird summoning mechanic. It's very similar to the Dark Synchros from 5Ds. The next few monsters we have a Bergman. This is a theoretically good card. You're putting something back to your hand to summon it. It's a level 3 tuner. Makes an easy Chenging. I have only ever normal summoned this. This could literally be a 3rd Ash. I've never used the effect to put a guy back to my hand. I've never felt the need to, and it's never been necessary. I see the utility for it. It can easily be used. Like if it comes up, sure, I'd love to have it, and I'd be upset if I didn't have it when it does come up. So look, put Pancratops back into your hand, and then play this, and then just drop the Pancratops again because they have like 3 guys. That's so niche. It's not really coming up. This is just not worth playing, in my opinion. But I'm going to keep playing it. Next is Pancratops. This deck likes to go second. The main reason for that is because these are all summoned by quick effects. Like all the bears are quick effects to summon. They're not, only summoned in your turn. So you can summon these bears at your opponent's end phase before you've even had a turn. So the deck likes to go second for that reason. And that's why I run Pancratops. First of all, it's a level 7, so if I can't summon it, I can discard it for a bear. Second of all, it's really good for going second. So, yay. Being level 7 also helps because it's a non-tuner, and I can actually do this and a bear to go into Polari. 3 Vishuda. Again, it's a level 7. If you're going second, it's great. It's removal. It's a level 7 that can be dropped quite easily or discarded. This is just, realistically, this is just another Pancratops. It's slightly worse than Pancratops, but it's at 3. So the general thing you want to do with Vishuda is Vishuda into Monk, and then this bounces a thing. You banish this from grave to bounce something. And that's cool, that's removal. It's kind of what Pank does. It specials and then removes. And then it's also a level 7, which gives you all the same benefits as Pank. Just also this. But being a worm opens you up to stuff like this stupid thing. You probably saw this at the top of the screen, like, why? I agree. Someone suggested this. Ursa is known at the moment for having a draw 7 card. It is a card that says you can draw 7 times this turn. So the statistical likelihood of getting both of these in your hand is actually not 0. If you happen to get both of these in your hand thanks to your draw 7 card, this is a free chaining. Simple as that. And it puts this in grave and puts a token on field so you can spin something with this anyway. So you're getting a bounce and a chaining for just happening to draw cards. This has not come up often. One thing I don't like is it's a 6. If this was a 7 and it's summoned a level 3 tutor, then this would be bonkers in this deck and I run 3 of it. But that's not the case. You don't have to run this. I just run it because when it works, it's hilarious. I usually also side it out the moment we hit sideboard. Unless I'm winning, I guess, because then it doesn't matter so much. If I win game 1, I'll keep it in. But just depends on what I want to side. It's one of the first cards to come out. Full Imperial Goods. This is for a few things. You can put Departure in grave. This has a grave effect that can't be used the turn it hits the grave, but oh well. That's annoying. Ice Barrier is a searcher that can be used the turn it hits the grave. And Dynamicious if you're desperate. That's pretty much it. That's all it's there for, is those 3 cards. So it's always live. I'd consider running 2 of this. You don't have to run 1. I just only own 1. Monster Reborn. There are quite a few times when you end up with a Polari in grave and you'd really like a Polari on field, but there's none left in your extra deck. Monster Reborn comes to the rescue. Have a Polari. Ursarctic Big Dipper. This is the card you will draw more than any other card in your deck. No matter what happens, you will open this about 30% of your games. You will see this in your opening hand more than you'll see Diva or Ursa's, just because it's searchable. As part of your Diva combo, or just any time you summon Polari, this is played from your deck for free. Great. So Newton's Law says you'll draw this and not be able to play it from your deck, and you're just wasting your time. You should be summoning Polari anyway, so this isn't a bad thing to have, and it's just broken. It is extra cards for your Ursas, so it lets you once per turn banish from grave instead of tributing from hand for an Ursa effect. So that's Polari's effect or the summon effects of the other Ursas. So that's cool. That's really reducing your discard count because you're discarding a lot. And then every time you summon, this gains a counter, right? And it's every time you or your opponent special summons. So it's not just you. It's every time anyone summons. So there's 1, 2. When it hits 6, when it hits 7, it gains an additional effect. It can remove all counters to snatch steal something when something is summoned. And it doesn't have to be the thing that is summoned. So in your turn, you make your Polari, you do all your plays and stuff, and you want to get this to at least 6. And then at any time in your opponent's turn, as long as you control a Synchro, which is an Ursa, which you should, you can remove the counters from this and snatch steal something. It's a big interruption on their plays. It is a quick effect snatch steal. It is a permanent snatch steal. There's nothing they can do to stop it except for blow this up, which if they don't have a way to do so, they're just going to be in trouble, especially because this is, you can just steal the first monster they put out. It has to steal a special summon, or it has to be in response to a special summon. So, yeah. Next is 3 Ursarctic Departure. This card is crazy. You can actually get away with running a low amount of Ursas as long as you're running a high amount of this. This is just discard a card, add 2 Ursas from deck to hand. One of those is always going to be your Mech Polar, so you're technically getting 3 Ursas from deck to hand for a discard. Which, if this gets ashed, you lose. The additional effect it has is if it's in grave, except for the turn it's sent there, of course, you can banish this instead of discarding it. Instead of tributing a level 7 or higher from hand or field, you can just banish this from grave to summon your Ursas or use your Polari effects. It's just cool. It's really good like that. It's essentially the Big Dipper effect on a spell that's already in grave. So you can do both and get 2 banishes from grave in one turn. Next we have Ursarctic Radiation. This is draw 7. This again, it gets counters just like the other card did, but this time it starts with 7 and they count down. So every time you summon, you drop a counter, you draw a card. Summon again, drop a counter, I can't find the 5, draw a card. So if you summon 7 times in one turn, you draw 7 cards. The big downside to that is it doesn't kill itself. When it hits 0, it stays there and you're only allowed to have 1 on the field. So unless you kill it yourself with Mega Polar, it's just going to sit there, clog your zones. Any extra ones you draw just bricks. So you only want the 1. It also has another effect. Very few players know about this. It has another effect. The end of your turn, I believe. No, end of any turn. So any end phase. Once per turn during the end phase, it shuffles an Ursarctic card back to your deck. So it can be a radiation, it can be a departure. Not that you would. It can also be Big Dipper. If you've played it and it's died, you can put it back in your deck and use Polari to get it back again. Sounds great. Every Ursa player will forget this effect exists because it's such a bad effect for the most part. You want your Ursas not in deck. You want them engraved so you can access them for the most part. You can shuffle back your Synchros with it, but because we use it so rarely, every Ursa player I've spoken to forgets that effect exists. I've resolved it once. And I've attempted to resolve it once, and that was last night. And even then, that was like, he went to draw for turn. I passed turn and was like, oh, hang on, sorry, end phase. This effect. I get to put my Polari back to extra deck. Cool, thanks. And he was nice enough to let me do so. So that's how rare that comes up. Onto traps. 2 Ice Barrier. You could easily run 3 of this. It doesn't overly matter. The battle effect is nice for when your opponent's silly enough to run into a battle trap, because it is a battle trap. Makes their attack 0, negates their effects permanently. They can't switch battle positions. This can protect your life points and also your monsters. The negation is nice. And you should use this on the first card that attacks you. It doesn't matter how strong or weak the monster is. If it attacks you, use this. And the reason for that is you don't want it on field, you want it in grave. Its grave effect is so good. it banishes to take any level 5 or higher water from your deck and put it to the grave. And then add any water from grave to hand. So you can search any Ursa, you can search Mollin Glacier. If you're crazy, you can search Poseidra. But if you just want a Diva, then you can send like anything else and just get the Diva out of grave. It doesn't even have to be the thing you sent. Or you can get Barrier Statue out of grave. It's bonkers, and it can use both effects in the same turn. It can use the search in the turn it's sent to grave. It's just nuts. Such a good card. So good. Dynamicious. A lot of people are like, why? Why are you playing Dynamicious? Good question. Next, we have the extra deck. No, I'll actually talk about this. It's, first of all, banishing is good. Discarding is okay, because this deck does so already so much that it doesn't care. It's not the end of the world if you discard, because this deck is already expecting to discard a lot. You have a fair few bricks, so it's fine. But the most important thing is if you can get this to summon out of graveyard, it's a level 2 non-tuner, and you run a lot of level 8 tuners. So that's a free chinging. That's it. That's all it's there for. It's just the fact that sometimes it's a free chinging. Alright, extra deck. Dynamicious is a maybe. You don't have to run it. You can run any Paleo, really. The other option is you can run the Paleo that sends a trap from deck to grave, just to send Ice Barrier. It's a free search. Essentially, then you're running a trap that just says search for any Ursa, which is probably better than Dynamicious. But Dynamicious ruins people's games, so it's good. 2 Polari. Sometimes 1 Polari is not enough. Sometimes 1 Polari is enough, but you also want to use his effects, and you can't do so because you still haven't put an Ursa in your grave because you made this with Diva and the other guy, Diva and Neptibus. So you summon a second Polari just to put guys in your grave for Polari to bring them out of your grave. This card has a few effects. The first one is that summoning condition is just a tuner, non-tuner that are 1 level apart. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. There's nothing special going on there. The second effect is when it's summoned, it gives you a Big Dipper from your deck. Just activates it straight from your deck. Great effect. It would be so much better if you didn't always draw the Big Dipper. The third effect is it can tribute a Ursa from the field or your hand, or tribute a monster, I believe. Sorry, tribute a level 7 or higher monster, and it has to be from your field. But then it adds an Ursa from grave to your hand, or just summons it from grave. The main purpose of this is if you have an 8, so one of these guys in your grave, you can Polari bring them out just by tributing another thing on field. But because he plays Big Dipper when he enters the field, you can just banish an Ursa from grave for that effect. So you're banishing 1 out of grave to summon 1 out of grave because he's already got Big Dipper on field. And I think that Big Dipper gives these guys extra effects that you should be aware of. Big Dipper also means, or Polari means that Big Dipper has its Snatch Steal effect live because you have to have an Ursarctic synchro. So it's very important to have your little Polari on board if you can. Otherwise, go into the big guys. It's very good for just extending, and it's just a great little card. Next we have Grand Chariot. This is your going second synchro. You summon this. When it's summoned, it destroys 2 cards on the field, and it has a negate for anything that targets an Ursarctic card. So if something targets Grand Chariot or Big Dipper, you can tribute an Ursa or tribute a level 7 or higher. I think it's anything. Tribute a monster from your hand or field. So yeah, okay, this is able to tribute Dragoons or Neptibus and still get their effects, which is crazy. But it also is it's protection for itself. It's protection for Big Dipper, and it makes Big Dipper live and able to snatch steal. Bonkers. This is your go first, Big Ursa. When you're going first, you want to summon this if your opponent is using Links or XEs, because it just turns them off. It turns off their effects. They have no effect. And it's also a search anytime your opponent special summons, which is fine enough. It searches the draw 7, but generally if you've got this on board, you're well beyond needing the draw 7 anymore or being able to use it. you're not going to be able to use radiation to draw any cards if you've already wasted all your resources making a Septentrion. But it's just a good card. It wins games. I summoned this against a bottle player the other night, or last night, and he just scooped because he couldn't add it. I think you'll find things like Salomon Great and Cherubini Pass, Cherubini combos. They all just lose to that card. Monk of the Tenyi. This is just for the shooter. We know what this is for. One Hulky Fibrax. This is realistically only accessible out of Diva, because if you've summoned one of the big Ursas, you can't link for the rest of the turn. So unless you summon the big Ursa in their own phase, you can't really go into this. This doesn't have a lot of options anyway. It's just to summon another guy out of your deck and then go into Nightmare Unicorn. That's pretty much the only reason it's in here, is that it makes Nightmare Unicorn. One Draco Sack. You may have noticed we have a lot of 7s in the deck. That's fine. Sometimes you'll end up in a situation where you end up with 2 7s on the board and one of them is the shooter. You can make this, detach the Vishuda to summon the 2 tokens. Your Vishuda's live, your Draco Sack's live. Yay, good. This has never come up. Not once has it come up, but it's good. It's a good safety net, but in case it does, it's good to have. Tatsunoko is another way into Chenyu. So if you have Diva Neptibus, sorry, wherever Diva went, yeah, Diva Neptibus, you can make this instead of making Polari, and then all you need is a level 7 in hand, which the deck is just full of, and you're making Chenyu, which is the boss monster of the deck. This doesn't come up often. If you, for whatever reason, got a barrier statue or a Diva still on your turn, on your field after a turn, you can summon Dragoons or barrier statue or Diva or whatever you need to summon to complete it and make this. It triggers Dragoons if you in Neptibus if you discard for it. That's about it. It's really bad. It's a water. Yay. Yeah, it just doesn't come up. Rise of Dragon. This sucks. This is. I was playing this purely because you can go into it with Fibrax. Yep, this deck's so bad it's boring me. No, this deck's fun. It's fun as hell. This card bores me. I really wanted to make this work in this deck, and it just doesn't, because I can make this and I can manipulate its level to whatever, but I can't actually synchro with it into anything of value. If I had a level 5 in deck, you'd be able to send that to make this a level 2. That doesn't work. You want to send a 6. No, you don't, because I'm pretty sure... Yeah, you want a 6. You want to send this thing, because you're already running it. Makes this level 1, and then it's a tuner plus one of your little bears, makes an 8, and that's how you get into Dragite. Dragite's like a spell trap negate, isn't it? I think. I haven't summoned it. This is really hard to summon. You have to have a level 1 tuner. The deck doesn't use level 1 tuners whatsoever. So, there you go. There's Dragite. Crocodile Dragon is just awesome. This card is crazy good. It's draw when it's summoned. It's a pitch 2 to break something. To destroy in your opponent's turn. It's removal. And also this being a water will still trigger Dragoons and Neptibus if you happen to discard them. Which is funny as hell. It's so funny to be able to do that, in my opinion. And then Dragon Mech and Chenyu. So Dragon Mech is just another 9 you can access. These are 9s. You can access these as easy as you can access your Grand Chariot and Septentrion. They're just a level 1 non-tuner and a level 8 tuner. This one is negating multiple things and then adds any tuner from grave to hand when it's destroyed, which is half your deck is tuners. So good. And then this is Sword Style Training is just stupid. This card is hard to remove, especially with like how easy it is to summon in this deck. It's very difficult to remove. Every time something is banished, which this deck does a lot, especially if you have Big Dipper in play, you can be banishing your opponent's turn to trigger its effect to banish more things. Bonkers card. It is an absolute powerhouse of a card that your opponent is never going to be ready to fight. Yay! Onto the extra deck. Veiler. 100% the reason I side this is, yes, it's a good hand trap, but also it makes drag out. Gamma Seal, this is you can use this under barrier statue, and it's also removal. It's really good for just getting over something with negates. Nim, I just hate Nim. It feels like a punishing card. It punishes low power decks and does nothing to high power decks. And it's just such a dramatic punishment for low power decks for a card that also is useless against the meta. I really dislike it as a card, but I play it because it's just good. I'd hate to lose to some random deck like Polar Bears, so that's why I play Nib. True King Barastos? I don't know. This thing I should be main decking. I regret not main decking this. I sided this in twice at my last locals for the first time I'd ever sided it in. And it didn't do anything the first game, but it would have if I had seen it. The second game, it won me the game. All the other way around. Sorry, the second game it didn't do anything because I didn't see it. The first time it won me the game. So not only is it spell trap removal, which is really good against Eldritch and stuff, it summons a Vashuda if it's destroyed. And it triggers the effects of things like Neptibus and Dragoons because it's a water. It's just a bananas card. It has back row removal. It's a level 9, so you can pitch it for your versus one Feather Duster. It's just another. It's just the counterpart to this. You sided in against back row decks, obviously. 3 D barrier because D barrier is just broken right now. 2 light imprisoning. There's a lot of really good light decks in the format, and there's a lot of good dark decks in the format. Even decks that aren't specifically good light or dark have good light or dark boss monsters. So you want this. Even against dinos, this is good. It hits enough of their stuff to hurt them. But Eldritch obviously is the main reason. And Shadow Imprisoning, well, we know what that's for. There's a lot of dark stuff going on. Dark cards are popular lately. So yeah, this is everything for the Ursas. I think I've just put in... Nope, that's all sides. These cards are crazy fun. And I find that even my opponents really like that I'm playing this. People see that I'm playing this and they're like, oh, this is the draw 7 deck. This is really cool. And they have no idea how it works, and they like to see how it works because it behaves different. Not many decks in this game play from discarding or tributing monsters from hand to special summon, and have hand trap-like behaviors. It's crazy. The dark synchro aspect of it is something people like too. The fact that you're not, you're synchroing for 1 and 7, but you're using 8s to do so. Yeah, so you're subtracting levels, which people like that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This is the true boss monster of this deck. It's just devastatingly strong, and when you've got access to the level 7 non-tuners and level 8 tuners, it's so easy to make. All you need is a level 2 non-tuner or a level 3 tuner. Thanks for listening and watching and all that sort of stuff, and we will see you for the next time I decide to do a deck profile, which is probably going to be a fair while away. But yeah, I am packing this deck up. I've had fun with it. I played the crap out of it for 3 weeks. I feel like there's not much more I can do with it at this point, except for maybe try using the True King, because it's an extra worm for this anyway. But that's pretty much it. That's the only thing I can think of adding to it. And yeah, don't use Birdman. It just doesn't come up. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.